That was fast, Your Majesty.
I'm sorry, Dr. Jessica, probably the parameter were changed. I have to
It's
look
working
at it
fine
again.
now. Thank you. Hello, Dr. Aliai.
Hello, how are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for your invitation.
I'm messaging everyone, telling them that the problem has been solved. We have quite an agenda today. Welcome, Golda Velez.
Yeah, Velez, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm very happy to raise the voices.
Exactly. And Hein Min is here also. He has just joined.
Yeah, wonderful. Hein Min is is he a college student in Myanmar?
Yes, I believe so.
Well, I'm happy to have you here again. We're hoping to have your camera on, Hein, if that's possible.
Okay. Yeah.
I will introduce the room. The platform is provided by Queen Nadia Hariri, who founded Success World One to educate the world for free. She was crowned Queen of Africa by the Baule family in the Ivory Coast. Dr. Aliai works for a think tank in Albania. Golda Velez is one of the head officers for a nonprofit called Raise the Voices. Dr. Daphne Phillip is an educator, and she's are you from Haiti?
Yes, I am.
That's right. Yeah, very sorry about the recent loss there.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Welcome, Dr. Om Parkash. And I don't know, Chris Kemery-Toon or May Kant, would either of you like to introduce yourselves?
Dr. Walid.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad that Walid is here. I'm going to start with some protocol.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mekan, and I'm invited by Golda and Henry. I'm like a college student from Myanmar. And
Oh, nice to meet you.
yeah, nice to meet you too.
He's actually my classmate.
Okay, wonderful. That's great news. And I see Chris there. Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Jesse. Hello, everyone else. My name is Chris Kemery-Toon, calling in from Wembley in the UK. Found out about the event today via Mark Jarrett here in the UK, and working on a technology project for the past 3.5 years, and also got various projects involving Africa to do with economic regions and smart cities. Thank you. I look forward to
thank you for being here. Before I introduce Walid, I would like to set the room, so to speak. We understand that Zoom has become casual. However, this is a business meeting, so we want your cameras on. No transportation or walking. It looks really odd, and we're always worried that someone's going to fall down. Mute yourself when you're not speaking to prevent interruptions. Appropriate attire, thank you. We are moving to a timed session from now on. We will begin at 12:05, starting with Myanmar. Each person will have a total of 8 minutes to present their case. The first minute can be about a challenge related to SDGs, but the last 7 minutes have to be practicable solutions to that problem. In the last minute of that person speaking, we are hoping that that someone will raise their hand. We will probably only get to one person's comment or question. That person will have, or there'll be a total of 2 minutes for comments and questions. At the end of those 2 minutes, we'll go back to the original speaker for any final rebuttal or final comment on the topic. That being said, if the protocols are broken, please do not be offended if we put you in the waiting room. We are trying to preserve the integrity of the room. There is always royalty present. King Paki Silva Jr. will be here momentarily. Kings and queens go by Your Majesty, princes and princesses by Your Highness, in case that's not familiar lingo to you. Dr. Waleed, I'll let you introduce yourself real quickly. Go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. Actually, it is a pleasure that I am here today with you. I hope that this meeting will achieve the hope and aims that it is after. And thank you, actually, thank you for all your efforts, for what you are offering for the world. By the way, my name is Dr. Waleed. I'm from Iraq, from Babylon City. I teach English as, you know, in Iraq, English is a foreign language. So I teach English at a secondary school here in Iraq. I hope that I'm going to say something that you can get benefit from, and I can benefit from you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Waleed. So it is 12:05. We are going to start with our first theme. It is Myanmar. It will be Golda will be speaking with Hein Min, and possibly May Kant can participate as needed. So the floor is yours. You have 8 minutes.
Great. I wanted to let Hein Min start and frame the problems. I'll probably jump in at the very end, kind of framing a little bit of the solution.
Thank you.
Sure. So hi everyone, I'm very glad that you all are giving attention to what's happening in the country, what's happening in Myanmar. So my name is Hein Min and I am 21 years old and I am currently studying international relations at the University of Yangon and supposed to be in the final year. However, according to what's happening in the country and being a part of civil disobedience movement, boycotting the military education under the agenda that we don't accept, I not only me, but also my classmate May and others have decided to boycott the military education. We have suspended our university life. So we are currently jobless and not graduated yet. So I'm going to present you what's happening in Myanmar in a very short and clear way. So basically, there are 3 types of struggles that we are going through in this very hard situation and the moments of uncertainty. First, we have experienced a coup and the crimes committed by the military. On the 1st of February 2021, less than 6 months ago, the military has staged a coup by detaining the civilian political leaders and elected parliamentarians just before the new parliament was about to be started. Since then, we have been trying to peacefully protest it. We have raised our voices against the military. We have spoken out against the gender, and we have shown the world that we don't accept the military coup. However, the military cracked down the protests very, very brutally and violently, and thousands of people have been killed so far. And nearly 10,000 people have been detained in the jail for speaking out against the gender and for showing their concerns against the military coup. So we are really losing our freedoms of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and our basic human rights. And
okay, thank you, Hein. You are at 1 minute and 50 seconds, and you're still on the problem. Let's switch to solutions, please.
Okay, sure. So what is happening right now is how the international community can help us. So we have every problem that we are facing right now is just because of the military coup. So the first thing is we have a beacon of hope in this very hard time. We have the National Unity Government of Myanmar that is the only legitimate and the people mandated government. It includes a really, really diverse and inclusive society, like all the ethnic groups and different kinds of people like gay, women, youth, etc., and so on. So supporting the national unity government by the international community is a way to support our country. And the second thing is to help fundraising. We are experiencing different kinds of problems. We are facing like a COVID-19 third wave, and the military junta is doing nothing about it, and they are even weaponizing it. So the military junta is not really effectively managing and administering the COVID-19 responses. We, the citizens of Myanmar, are just helping ourselves by fundraising, giving support to each other. So, but the thing is, we are also facing an economic decline. So to support the civil disobedience movement that is really effective in taking down the dictators and the internally displaced people due to civil wars and violences ongoing in their regions around them, and also the COVID-19 response, the international community can help us by fundraising. And the similar thing is to contribute the financial aid directly to the civil society organizations or the non-governmental organizations or the local communities that are supporting each other. We can also tackle the challenges together. And the last thing is to spread the word.
Hyman,
So
do you want to mention the job fair? We are organizing a job fair because these students can work remotely, and so that is
sure. Yes. So as Raise the Voices, we are also organizing the job fair to provide students and students participating in the civil disobedience movement who are jobless and not graduated yet, to offer them to make them more financially independent and to be more financially scalable and sustainable. As Raise the Voices, we are organizing different kinds of fundraising events and also like the job fair to help the students of Myanmar. So the last thing is to spread the word. So the world needs to pay more attention to what's happening in the country and join hands to help. So I'm going to give the floor to Golder to continue.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm sorry to interrupt you before the end, but we are very, very excited about the job fair because it's something that, there's always demand for fundraising, but these are really skilled young students. They're happy to work it's actually a benefit to people who might want to hire them because they're happy to work at fairly low rates that will actually benefit them. And so I hope there might be a way that we can spread the word about the fair. We have to set the date, and it's going to be a kind of a Zoom job fair and resume pool that you can look into. But I wanted to speak a little bit about the recognition of the National Unity Government and the significance of that. I think there's very broad consensus that those are the people who won the election. There's really no argument that the individuals in the National Unity Government, nobody says they didn't win the election. But what disturbs me is that there's this political calculation going on of, who should we support to have most influence in the region? And once you do that, you've already lost. Because if you are doing political calculations about who has most power, that is a message to the people with violence that they can win just by having more power. And once you give that message, it really, you've already lost. The only way to establish a true value for democracy is to stand up for that principle that democracy and justice implies that these people won the election, therefore the government should be recognized. The fact that someone else is there with some guns and might have more power really has no relevance to who won that election. And it shouldn't. So I think that by taking a leadership role in avoiding these political calculations, it can create a much more powerful norm that can defend justice and democracy. Because if you're standing on a principle, then people know you won't just back down because now the winds have shifted and we have a little more power, I guess you'll back us. They know that you won't back down. And that really has a multiplying effect. So standing on a principle is just very, very important. And I hope that possibly Your Majesty, the King of Hawaii, you might be a leader in that area and show the world that a principle is a principle and an election is an election, and that's who won the election. So I think I can go ahead and take questions. We could talk more, but that was a good place to stop maybe.
Yes, okay, well, you're at 1 minute anyway for your presentation. Would anybody like to make a comment about her proposed solutions?
Proposed solution was really actually very well thought out. First of all, aloha, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Your Majesty.
It's an election, and someone who's been elected, I understand. I guess the question I have in my mind is, I want to talk about the fair. What age are these students that are at the job fair?
Heinmin, do you want to answer that? How old are your friends? I think they're all going to be in their last year of college, more or less.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. The people yeah, well, mostly the people who will be attending the job fair are more likely to be the final year students, just like us, who are just like 5 or 6 weeks ago to graduate, but just boycotted the military education because we don't want that certification given by the unofficial gender.
So how old are they, Heinmin? Sorry.
Yeah, around 21, 22.
Okay. You mentioned the military being the source of the problem. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, yeah. I personally, for me, I see the military as the source of all problems here in the country. Like initially, also in the previous years, they have crossed the line. They have crossed the line of They have crossed the line of defense. That is their like primary responsibility, and they have interfered in all the branches of the government. That is quite unfair. But we focused on building a civil military relations, so we didn't make like match or judgments and match comments about it. However, they have gone beyond their limits, and on February 1st, they have tried to obtain and crystallize the entire country, and they are now trying to control the country without our consent. So I see them as the main source of all the problems happening in the country right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah, 1 minute, Your Majesty.
Yeah, I'm putting these thoughts down together, and I will get back. Continue, please.
Okay. And it should be noted that the Kingdom of Hawaii has already sent their letter of support for the NUG, and we are working with other partners around the world to get them to send their letters of support.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. It's really appreciated.
Thank you both for being here. We're going to move now. Amar Joffrey, are you here?
Yes, I'm very much here. Thank you much. Thank you.
Wonderful. So go ahead and introduce your segment, please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I would like to thank the King, everybody on board. So my part is now talking about solutions.
Can we stop screen share, please? Sorry to interrupt you. Stop screen share. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Amar. Sorry.
Okay, no issues, no issues. When we say solutions, it involves a lot of things. So firstly, I would like to discuss about working together within a country, between countries. To my understanding, now there's a problem in which countries are not working together due to the fact that there are some political differences, there are some global issues, and so the global politics is now impending the working together. So I think SDGs, especially when we talk about the development agenda and health, education, climate change, everything we're talking about, in terms of global agenda, I think we should be beyond politics because the COVID-19 has given us a message that when the natural calamity will come, the natural calamity will not take into account the countries, it will take into account the globe. So this is my first point in terms of solutions. Second is that there's an urgent need between the public-private partnerships within a country and between countries. So on this forum, I would like to suggest an initiative which is called Digital Diplomacy. And this initiative aims to a relationship between countries beyond borders. And that must be a relationship between the projects. For example, a village in Malaysia can talk to a village in Pakistan, and they can share their experiences, they can share their values, they can share their foods, they can share their businesses. So once these types of relationship starts, I believe that we will have less problems. And the third solution which I would like to give is that now education has gone beyond world schools, beyond world universities. So I think now time has come that an expert in one country, for example, somebody is expert in mathematics, and that expert has a special blend of something like in mathematics, for example. So he or she can try on virtual education, giving access to the other countries also. And finally, I think somebody raising some hands. So Jessica, should I stop here?
Yeah, sure. Yes, Mahmood, would you like to ask your question for
Yeah,
Mr. Joffrey?
definitely. I would like to answer the questions. Please go ahead, anybody.
Mahmood, you had a question? It looks like Mahmood's gone.
Okay.
Go ahead, proceed, Amar, with your first
Okay,
speaker.
fine. Thank you very much. So, when we talk about solving the problems, when we talk about the solutions, I think defining a problem solves the problem, for example. At least it solves the half of the problem. So I think let's define the problem. The problem is that people are not talking to each other. We must be thankful to the organizers of this room that they have given us the opportunity to talk to each other. Once we talk to each other, and if we are talking logically, we are talking beyond human barriers, then I think we have a special blend of helping each other. So I think the first part is over now. The second part is that we should start small projects. For example, we should start from health. Now the telemedicine has given us the opportunity that any doctor in any part of the world can help the patient in other parts of the world. There are certain telemedicine practices which even don't require interaction between two people, like patient and doctor. For example, the teleradiology. If I need a CT scan, if I need a chest X-ray, expert views on that, I can just take it, send it to some cloud, and any expert in any part of the world can give his or her opinion. The point is over. Same applies to education. Same applies to the food issue. There are a lot of food in a lot of the parts of the world which is going waste. So there are a lot of preservation strategy in different countries, and those strategies can be used in different regions of the world. So I would like to stop here because I have Jessica had given me only 7 to 8 minutes. So yeah, I know that Jessica is very punctual about the timing. So I'll be very happy to answer any question. Mahmood,
Go ahead, Mahmood.
Please go ahead.
Mahmood, unmute yourself, please. We can't hear you, Mahmood. Please unmute yourself. All right, so Mahmood, okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead, Mahmood. If you can't speak, we'll come back to you.
Not here. Good.
Can you please type your question, Mahmood? We can't hear you. Please type your question and we'll get back to you.
Not here. Doctora, the internet very bad. No, I am sorry.
Okay, so Mahmood, please type your chat. Please mute yourself. Type whatever your question is. We need to move on. Amar Joffrey, please introduce your first panelist, and that person has 8 minutes to speak, 7 on a solution. Thank you.
So I would request Mr. Munir to please speak on the topic. Mr. Munir.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Very, very, very loud and very clear.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you very much. And I will speak about mainstreaming of SDGs in the developing countries, a case study of Pakistan. As we have seen, we have completed 5 years, and I had a strategic review of Pakistan's performance in 5 years last year. And I had like a couple of strategic reviews of the mechanisms that we have in Pakistan. And we also suggested a couple of strategies, but still they are not incorporated into, rather we have not seen the incorporation of those suggestions in it. On the other hand, I believe the SDGs definitely needs local leadership. We have a task force of Parliament on mainstreaming of SDGs into development projects, but we don't see any sort of on ground mainstreaming of or like engaging parliamentarians into sustainable development goals and getting the results into our SDGs dashboard. Even we don't have a dashboard at all that could help us know what progress we have achieved. Even last year, when I had a strategic review of the SDGs performance for 5 years, the government, the SDGs unit in the Planning Commission, they said like we had good data, but that was not incorporated into the international reports. That was like Sustainable Development Report and also the UNDP's report. Somehow that is also one problem. In the absence of local governance, the problem has aggravated. So I don't know like what is the experience in the other countries in the absence of local governance, like where we need to have our interventions. Secondly, last time we discussed that the bigger problem is the non-availability of current data, and because of the absence of the local governance, we see there is no collection of, there is no proper mechanism for collection of data and the management of data and the analysis. In the absence of these three things, that definitely it cannot be incorporated into the development projects or cannot be show off or showcased in different policies. So this is the situation, and my humble suggestion is that like if we really want to have SDGs, some performance on SDGs, there is another lacuna that the organizations responsible for SDGs or mainstreaming SDGs or getting into different policies, they are not willing to open their doors for collaboration. So in such kind of things, we definitely need to have certain civil society pressure for for collaboration and cooperation between different stakeholders. Amar Jafri Saab may come up with some good suggestion on it, like how we can have government institutions, those or the parliamentarians, those are responsible for such kind of practices, how they could have a collaboration from civil society. So like until we don't have a good dashboard and we could have a reliable data collection, management and analysis, I believe the developing countries would remain low on the performance on SDGs. So we need to find out certain mechanisms to address the lacunas. Thank you very much. If there are some questions, I'm open to any feedback and questions, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. I don't see any raised hands.
If there's no question, I'd just like to say one thing which Ms. Munira said.
Golda does, and so does Dr. Ali. So Golda, go ahead.
I'm sorry, he could probably go first. you want to let him go first?
No, go
No,
ahead.
no, please, please.
So I'm a software engineer, and so when you mentioned these data collection mechanisms, it just occurred to me, is anyone talking about kind of firsthand collection mechanisms where there could be some kind of firsthand reporting that would be tied to SDGs from devices and tied to reputation? I don't know if anyone's discussed this, and that's probably too long a question.
That's fine. Go ahead, Munir, Mr. Ahmed, or Jeff. Jafri,
I
you
think Amar Jafri Saab has some comment. Let get the comment from Amar Jafri Saab. Go ahead, Amar Jafri Saab, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I think I'd like to respond that data collection is a science now. When we talk about data collection, it involves two things. One is, what is the medium of data collection? And second is, what is the source of data collection? I think in terms of medium, there's a lot of apps and everything available. But the problem in developing countries is the source. Because, for example, if we engage some organization which is trained in data collection, it requires resources. But once we give this leverage to the grassroots level so that, okay, feed it whatever you like, then we have the issue of the quality of data. So it's a big challenge in developing countries that the channel or source is available, but once we start collecting data from the grassroots without the data validation, without the data checking, then it becomes a serious problem.
Thank you, Amar. We still have time for Dr. Aliai's question. Go ahead, Dr. Aliai.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask about you mentioned, in fact, the role of civil society, how active they are, and they are operating in the whole regions of Pakistan or only in big cities?
Unfortunately, we have a presence of civil society only in the big cities. In the rural settings, we don't have that vibrant and dynamic presence of civil society. Even if they lack certain facilities or civic amenities, even they are not able to speak up at the right forums or demand such kind of facilities at their vicinities, at their doorsteps. So that is weak, and I always emphasize on the stronger local communities' voice. Even last week when I spoke about that, we need to have certain mechanisms or interventions where we could help communities to unite together to raise their voice for their rights, in terms of the civic amenities, and also they should have like health and livelihood facilities over there. And there should be some mechanism, at least some community leaders should be there enough, and some they should have some capacity to communicate about their problems in real terms that we talk about, or they should have little bit awareness and about the buzzwords that we usually speak, because in the metropolitan areas, the buzzwords that are used in the development sector that matter, and even media pick up such kind of statements or communication that is more relevant and having some buzzwords in it. So I believe we need to develop community level leadership on sustainable development goals. And unfortunately, the interventions that we have in Pakistan, for example, the UNDP supported SDGs initiative at a federal level and in the provinces. Even they have not very vigorous and dynamic approach to reaching out to communities. Even they are reluctant to open their doors for the most active organized civil society organizations. So there should be, I don't know what could be the mechanism, but may Amar Jafri Saab may come up with any suggestion to it, please.
We have 1 minute until our next speaker.
Okay, I'll try to respond to 1 minute. You know, when you try to engage the civil society, Again, there are some political gaps, there are some cultural gaps, there are some religious gaps. So these gaps are working. So again, I'll go back to my original point that we should work on SDGs in solving the problems in terms of solution by minimizing those gaps. And those gaps can only be filled if we work at the global level. You know, once we work at the global level, that's what we are doing right now. There's an advantage of bringing the fresh air. Normally in one particular country, there's no fresh air, there's old mythologies, everything. But once the countries talk to each other, there's always a role of the fresh air, which naturally brings something good for everybody. I thank you, Jessica. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Jaffrey. We're now going to move to Ms. Ramna Saeed, who's going to speak to us about increasing religious tolerance for peace and development. Ramna, are you there? She just messaged me on WhatsApp and says that she is here.
Actually, I was also trying to find her. Okay,
So
you continue.
We need to move on. We need to move on, please. We need to move
Okay.
on. If she's
So
not
Dr.
here,
Ali,
move on.
Dr. Aliai, are you ready to speak?
Yep.
Great.
I would like to speak about a phenomena that I think it's an obstacle for all countries in development world. That phenomena is called corruption, and I think everybody knows that how harmful the corruption is. But I would like to speak about the Albanian experience and mostly about the Western Balkan area. One of the big obstacles and challenges of Balkan and Albania too, it's the corruption. It is in all reports, international reports, European Union and State Department reports, the Balkan and including Albania, but I'm talking for Western Balkan, for the region. One of the main challenges for the countries is corruption. And what are you hearing me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. This phenomena is letting us behind of new developments and joining EU, European Union, and as I mentioned above, those in all those reports, the corruption for our countries is the biggest challenge. In fact, the solution I think is to provide and to have more digitalization for public services. We have in Albania, in fact, we have done some progress in fighting against corruption. They are more than 1,200 public services which are now digitalized, and you don't need to talk with to go in the offices, but you just have a click on the computer, so you can get the service you want. But the challenge of corruption is not only with public services, but in the big levels, in the high levels of the governments and in the municipalities. This is why, starting from 2016, Albania is undergoing a really deep and painful, in fact, but very necessary reform of justice system. One of the problems was that the high-ranking officials, they were never punished by the courts, although that they were several times that they were caught in cases of big corruptions, but never they ended in the jail. So with the help of US and EU, European Union, as I mentioned, we are undergoing this reform, which has been until now very fruitful, because not only we are cleaning the system, judiciary system, from prosecutors and judges who are corrupted, but starting from June this year, we have seen even the higher rank of officials that they are now in jail for corruption, starting from mayors in the municipalities, in the big cities, and also with some high-ranked general directors or deputy ministers, and we hopefully will see soon other fruits of this really important reform that is undergoing in our country. In fact, this reform has some examples in Europe. For example, Romania and Croatia has undergoing this reform some years ago, and in Croatia, the Prime Minister went in jail for corruption, but also some other high-ranked officials, they went in jail. Also, the same in Romania. So we took this example, and we are going through this. I want to underline that to approve this in Parliament and to go through this reform, the role of civil society was crucial. Of course, the corrupted officials, they didn't want this reform, so they were using all forms, from fake news, propaganda, with all means to fight against this reform. But I'm repeating it, that the role of civil society was crucial. So thank you. I hope I was.
Yes, you were actually right on time. I was about to highlight our timer over there, Mr. Duan, but you have finished within your time limit. Does somebody have questions for Dr. Aliay? I can say that this reminds me of Turkey, in that a lot of the judges in Turkey were trained in the US. And, you know, the opposite is happening now. The US judges are now the judges that were trained in the US are in jail in Turkey. So it's the opposite thing that's happening there, unfortunately.
Jessica, can I have a question?
Of course, Mr. Jaffrey.
Thank you. You know, you're absolutely right. The corruption is the biggest phenomena, and that must be controlled. But the problem is that international rules, regulations does not allow to have access to the people who leave the country. So it happens in developing countries especially, that when the senior leadership involved in corruption, they're definitely involved in a lot of big money. And when they're in power, they can do whatever they like. But once they decide to leave the country, they have one excuse or the other. At times they go on political asylum, at times they go for some sort of medical issues, all these things. So I think there's a need for a consensus between the countries that they will honor the laws of other country. If the highest court is demanding some person who has done something wrong with the legal system or something, violation of the law, I think there's a need for, again, I would like to talk about beyond borders discussions, because there's always a safe haven for the corrupt people in the world, anywhere in the world. And and interestingly, they're all with big countries, let me say. So under the name of human rights, under the name of anything, they always find some excuse at some point of time. So this is my question to you, that how can we solve this problem?
Thank you for the question. In fact, as I mentioned, the Albania has been helped a lot from US and EU countries, European Union countries, but also people who are working with justice reform and civil society, they have been active with other civil society in other countries. Because as you mentioned, the political elites, they can transfer assets somewhere else. So we have been working with different colleagues in different countries to find those assets that they are hiding everywhere in the world, and mostly in Europe and US. I don't know if I was answering to you, but
you're absolutely right. The need for civil societies to talk to each other. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Munir Ahmed has a question as well. Go ahead, Munir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jessica. I was just pondering that those organizations who are responsible to promote and mainstream good practices, they are also engaged into such kind of practices that comes under the label corruption. In 2009 or 2010, I read a report of the European Union that they have decreased, the EU countries have decreased their contribution to the UN organizations, and the report mentioned two very alarming words: embezzlement and bad practices. So if the UN organizations, which are known for certain exemplary practices, even if their funding was curtailed by the European EU countries, what we should expect in the developing countries and their governments and their systems. So even some years back, we used to hear with tender notices and employment opportunities announced by the government, the authority has the right to accept or reject any application or all. Now, this sentence is mentioned in all the UN and development sector multinational donor organizations as well. In this kind of practice, I would request, like, what prospects or what solutions could be to eradicate corruption from different societies.
May I?
Jessica?
We don't have enough time. I'm sorry, Dr. Ali. We have to move to the next speaker. But as the King mentioned in his chat, email me with the documentation and he will follow up with everyone. So in the interest of time, we're going to move now to Ms. Ramna Saeed, who will speak about religious tolerance for peace and development. Ramna?
Thank you so much, Dr. Jesse. So I will be talking about interfaith harmony and peace and how it can lead towards a peaceful society. So what I think that community policing should be done, where we will be focusing on developing relationships with the community, and we should try the best to solve and involve the community in all the situations. So as we all know that most people are judged by their religion. So interfaith dialogue is a vehicle that can be used to promote the understanding between the people of various faiths who, despite their different religious beliefs, they have something in common. So it can lead to increase the understanding, and it can reduce the prejudice. So we should practice empathy so that we we will be able to develop the ability to imagine oneself in the shoes of the other person, because empathy, if empathy can be practiced, so it will lead us towards a peaceful and a tolerant society. And the best way to develop empathy is literature can be used as a tool in which fiction can places us in the shoes of others. So it can be a great tool because empathy can be spread through art, it can be spread through fiction. So we should practice active listening, because I feel that communication is the key, and through communication, all the problems can be solved. So identity-based tensions and the conflicts are the significant problem, can cause a significant problem in the societies, as we have witnessed that 9/11 taught us the cost of this kind of conflict, which is based on identity-based conflict. So we should strengthen the social cohesion, which will ultimately leads towards the peace. So we can build strong connections between the different religious groups that are already working and has worked towards the social good, and a lot more can be accomplished. So I feel I'm coming towards my last point. So I feel that there should be interfaith leadership, which will enable us to work together, but which will be enabled to work together not as only groups, but as the human race. So it will ultimately lead towards the peace. That's all about from my side.
Thank you, Ramna. Dr. Ali has raised his hand. Go ahead, Dr. Ali.
Yeah, well, I would like to underline the experience of my country, Albania, which is known in Europe for interfaith cooperation and collaboration. In the past, in Balkan countries, in former Yugoslavia, they were very bloody wars going on. And one of the biggest problems, it was the intra-religion cooperation. In Albania, in all our history, which dates 4,000 years ago, we never had religious problems. So Ramna, we can have a good cooperation if you need to share some experience from us. All over Europe, we are known for this. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you for the offer, Dr. Ali. Ramna, do you have a response?
Thank you so much. If I ever need help, so I would definitely ask from him regarding my.
Wonderful to see you. I had
Thank
one.
you.
I'm wondering what Dr. Ali thinks of the idea. I was discussing this with also Mr. Jaffrey yesterday. Hatred stems from fear, and fear stems from not being able to understand or know each other. And so one of my practical ideas is for Urdu speakers to teach Urdu for free in their communities to Sindh and Punjab and the other speakers. And the same thing for Sindh. Sindh speakers teach Sindh for free to those in their communities. This would, and Punjab speakers teach Punjab for free. This would increase each other's ability to understand each other, and that would reduce fear and hence hatred. Does anybody, what do you guys think about that idea? Dr. Ali, you have a long history of religious peace, or maybe Golda, it looks like Golda has an idea.
I just want to say I absolutely love that idea, and we actually have a thing online if people want to do it online, but I think locally in the communities and getting funding for that is a great idea.
Wonderful. All right, so Ramna, you're going to spearhead that movement in Pakistan. That's your job. Did you want to say something else, Ramna?
I would just like to add one thing.
Go ahead, Amar.
Yeah, I just add one thing. That the proxy wars between the countries with their own issues, actually that affects a lot in religious harmony. This is something I think we should all ponder, and with the collective wisdom, like you are suggesting that Punjabi should tell the Sindhi, that is equally applicable to different countries also. This is my only input.
Wonderful. Any final comments about religious tolerance? We do have a few minutes. I believe,
wanted to add something.
go ahead, Ramna.
As you said earlier regarding the language problem, language is not the problem. I think the acceptance and the tolerance and we as a human beings is a problem, because if we start to accept people the way they are instead of hating just because due to their different religion, I think that is the thing from where we can ultimately move forward from hatred and violence and extremism. So that's my stance on it, that we should accept the people the way they are instead of creating problems with them.
Thank you. Ramna, one other solution I could, the Queen Nadia works, and so does King Paki Silva Jr. with Dr. Oluwafemi Esan, who studies and talks about transpersonal psychology, which I think can help. He talks about the nature of knowing. How do you know what you know to be true in terms of, you know, my religion is the right religion. And I think that Dr. Esan could really help with breaking down those kinds of barriers. Queen Nadia, what do you think? Okay. That
Sorry,
being
I'm
said-
here.
Oh,
Sorry,
go
sorry,
ahead.
Dr.
Do you like the idea of Dr. Oluwafemi Esan's transpersonal psychology and how that could help this situation and increase religious tolerance?
Yes, I believe that he can help because he's an expert in transpersonal psychology. What is transpersonal psychology? Is to know who you are, to find your real identity. Most of the people I can hear that we are all here to try to solve some problems, the problems that we have collectively created. We are living, in fact, in a primitive, we have this primitive consciousness of division, separation, fears, doubt that we have created and we are cultivating collectively. So, because we don't know who we are, and because we don't know who we are, we don't know the real love, because love is not taught. No one is really teaching love. No one is really teaching love. And in every religion, you have the same message, same of message of love, message of unity, of respect, tolerance, and all that. Unfortunately, we have not understood the real message. What we are doing, we are cultivating the ignorance, and we are teaching our ignorance to the others. The result, what we have done, we have put every religion in competition. And let me tell you one thing, there's no religion in the world that had the power to bring peace, unity, and love and respect in this planet. So this is very good to try to solve the problem, but we have to first to solve the problem within us.
Yes, well said.
If we are not understanding, there's no way. Thank
Well
you.
said, Your Majesty. Yes. We are now going to move to the next topic. Thomas Potter is going to talk about per-con flow
Jessica.
and how, oh, go ahead, Your Majesty.
Before we go to the next subject, I want to reiterate what I typed. I would like you folks to identify the problem, give me your solutions as you feel them to be, and myself and my team, we're going to analyze it and hopefully come back with solutions that we can all work collectively to solve. The major problems I'm hearing here is obviously communications, talking to each other, finding the solution for the problems and so forth. religion, economics, military insurgents, problems. And I agree with Queen Nadia in that we humans create all these problems. So we humans need to solve these problems. So I would like each of you to, in about 5 or 7 pages, the first pages, I want the problem. And then the rest, I want your thoughts as to what you think the solution is to solve these problems. And then myself and my team, I have generals, I have judges, really well-informed individuals who love peace, love to help. And I can bring these guys together, a think tank, and we can put together some solutions for each problem that we're talking about today. This is a very long topic and it was years and years of accumulation. But I believe without a shadow of a doubt, we can solve the problems. Okay, so I want folks to take good care in what I just said and send me your information so we can work on it. Go ahead, Jessica.
Wonderful. I'll put my email in the chat so people can send them to me.
Okay.
We are now going to move to Thomas Potter, who's going to talk about PERCON flow and how it can reduce corruption by up to 99%. Thank you, Thomas, for being here today.
Yeah, hello, everybody. So exactly, I'd like to talk about not just the problems, but about the solution. And my topic is the crime and corruption. And I've tried to research some numbers, and I found only partial numbers for property crime and violent crime and internet crime, but I couldn't find the numbers for the overall financial crime and fraud. So only companies were complaining about 32 billion in annual compliance costs. So that looks to me like many politicians don't even want work to be done on the topic and not have it come to the public attention, how big a problem crime is, and especially corruption. It's estimated that just in the developing countries, it's 1.26 trillion per year. So it's a combined size of the economies of Switzerland, South Africa, and Belgium, and could lift most people from poverty beyond the poverty threshold. So there's also a distribution. For example, in some countries, more than 70% of the people have experienced corruption. Also governmental decisions and so on have to be bought by corruption. And this is the perception at this axis. What annoyed me personally is the EU's vaccine and FFP2 mask disaster. And that's also why I now proposed this PERCON flow concept. So this looks very much like corruption. It has not been formally proven, but the EU only ordered vaccines in November 2020 and also didn't focus on highly efficient FFP2 masks. They were trying to sell these older and worse simple masks for high prices with no proven corruption. And there's some correction in this indications, especially that they waited long before they ordered from new companies like BioNTech and CureVac. And we're waiting for some other, for example, French corporations to finish their vaccines, which they didn't manage to do. And the rough estimates of the consequences of not having vaccines early is around 200,000 deaths, around 100,000 long COVID cases, and around $10 trillion in costs because of long shutdowns of the economy, for example, and the consequences of long COVID and so on, of hospitalizations. Another aspect of corruption is that just pseudo innovations and actionism is done. For example, the electric car costs around twice as much, but has only a few % additional benefit, and only if you drive more than 100,000 miles with it. Otherwise, it's not beneficial because of these expensive and dirty to mine metals that are required.
Thomas, I have to
Yeah,
remind
yeah,
you that you have exceeded
yeah,
the time limit for
yeah.
problem.
Yes, I just finished it. So
Okay.
that's an explosion in bureaucracy, and the solution to it, instead of having to write thousands of papers, is to have an AI or a natural language processing system analyzing the risks and opportunities of a certain endeavor, for example, a company wanting to invest, in just requiring the company to provide the materials that are necessary to minimize the risks and optimize the outcomes. Another aspect is many authorities are trying to get as much money as possible from companies, partially as fees, partially as bribery. And instead, one could direct all funding towards optimal outcomes and have a clear causa principle, not chicane measures. So an entire overview of these methods. So there's some more. So I proposed the first two is there's undifferentiated harassment of individual traffic, because normal citizens can't easily protest and don't bribe. So instead, one could have best first message measures. There's high fees on personal waste, but it turned out that the EU waste is illegally exported and then thrown into the oceans. Instead of recycled, we could have longevity for products, cradle to cradle principle and recycling instead. There's a lot of artificial panicking, for example, on climate warming and other things, but the raised funds are not optimally invested in net beneficial activities. So this could be optimized, having more constructive proposals that can be criticized and improved. For example, my park and floor proposal is such a constructive proposal, I hope. And there's hardly any criminal investigations based on input from private people or non-billionaires. So meaning the legal system is difficult to access, and even in many European countries. And so it would be best to have best first criminal investigations. So looking at the maximal damage that can be avoided or corrected. So coming back to the blindfolded justitia principle. And there's other principles to fight corruption. So for example, if everybody would be paid or initially get bonuses based on the net benefit value that they produce for the company or for society. One could introduce a central cryptocurrency that is completely controlled, and that all payments must have a reason and be checked for unethical uses and crimes, so meaning no more cash money. And all knowledge, innovation, and production could be open and participatory, or the technical.
You have 1 minute left.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we could impose objective decision criteria for all decisions, and this could be split up into R&D grants, criminal investigations, job applications, and so on, and giving true equal opportunity for everybody, giving a universal basic income so that people don't need to steal, and free medical care and psychological treatment so that they also don't have many mental issues leading to criminal behavior. So destigmatizing these issues also, and modern punishment, for example, surveilling people but not putting them into a jail anymore, possibly a social scoring system for criminals, but basically integrating slightly criminal people.
Okay, I have to ask you to stop screen share, Thomas.
Yeah, okay, and this can be introduced bottom up.
Okay, thank you. You have created quite a stir in the room. We have lots of people who want to ask questions. I'm going to go first to Adrian Douin. You had a question or comment?
Yeah, I had a comment. Thomas, your information on EV is, I'm sorry to tell you, very incorrect. Okay? If you would like more information to correct your details, please let me know. And secondly, the World Bank, especially the European banks, have specific control mechanisms for any corrupt politician or anyone attempting to bank money in their system. So again, you need to revise some of your information. Thank you.
Yeah, this is from scientific sources, so I can give you my sources, but maybe it's a disagreement between scientists on this.
Okay. And now, thank you, Adrian and Thomas. We're now going to go to Almar Joffrey has a question for you, Thomas.
Yeah, I think Mr. Adrian has asked the question which I wanted to ask. That right now, I think it's a different era. FATF and the global rules, regulations, if you send money from one country to another country, there are a lot of checks into it. So in the situation is not that easy, which was 5 years before now. But my question exactly to you, Thomas, is that you very nicely talked about the traditional crimes, but now the new crimes are emerging. For example, instead of human trafficking now, there are now climate change migrants now. Because there are troubles in one part of the world and now they are migrating to the other part of the world. And the corruption part plays when the human smugglers, they facilitate these peoples. You have also suggested the use of artificial intelligence and natural processing languages to solve this corruption issue. I think it's a wonderful idea. And Jessica, I would like you to discuss, I think, one of the webinars about solving the corruption and these global practices through data sciences, through use of latest technologies. And that I think ultimately that's the solution only. Because any corrupt practice definitely is bound to be caught by the data analytics. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
Okay. We are now going to move to Ms. Imen Humer is going to speak about the situation in Algeria. Imen, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Can you hear me well?
Wonderful. It's so nice to see you here today.
Nice to see you too. I'd like to thank you, Jessica, for letting me participate in this room. Sounds very
happy.
fruitful. Thank you so much. So I'm Iman from Algeria. I'm 28, and I'm here to tackle the 18th goal of sustainable development, decent work, and economical growth, subsequently unemployment. And the later is actually the main challenge the government have been trying to overcome in the last decades. There were ups and downs, of course, but the road, want to ensure that the road is not smooth at all. And with the pandemic, actually, it has recently been more rough because of COVID. Well, we begin with the rate of unemployment declared by official resources of the government in last December 2020. It has reached 14%. And also recently, 500,000 jobs were lost, and that is a frightening number. I believe that many experts actually do as well, that it is an alarming rate. This is something that need to be addressed in a more efficient way. So, and since solutions can't be found unless the causes are identified, I'd like to quickly shed some light on the causes first, and without counting, of course, the pandemic and what has brought with it. The main causes of unemployment in Algeria are the continuity of old people to work even if they reach, or even if after they reach the retirement age, and some of them they actually go for retirement, and they even get another job beside their pension. Also, the failure of educational system, and I left the two main causes that I'm going to suggest some solutions for at the last. They are the weakness of the national economy and mainly the inflexibility of the Algerian economy in all sectors. So many, as far as the solutions are concerned, I wouldn't suggest many, and for superficial solutions are very much known. However, there is one main cause that I deem very dangerous, and for which for which the government needs actually to discuss the solutions efficiently and seriously. You know, all economists, or many economists in Algeria and employment specialists, believe that the inflexibility of the Algerian economy, local or foreign, is one of the main causes that halt the increase of employment in Algeria. And you know that Algeria depends on 90% of exports of fossil fuel, and that's the economy of Algeria, nothing more. I mean, like, for a continent country to depend only on the barrel price on economy is highly unlikely to go anywhere. So there is a total neglect towards the other sectors, and there is also a very rigid taxes policies and loan policies. and almost a closure in the face of any foreign investors. So for that, I believe that it is a high time for the government to steer the wheel from the export of fossil fuel. And it is highly unlikely for the continent. Like I said, Algeria is a big country with, many national resources. And to depend on that is something, I'm sorry for the word, but it won't take the country or employment anywhere. So investment in other sectors actually is needed, such as agriculture as a first place. I wouldn't go for industry and information technology or whatsoever, but two main sectors that need to be improved in order to provide more jobs and increase the rate of employment. And they are agriculture and tourism. These two sectors ought to be improved and enhanced. And for that, I urge the government to facilitate taxes and loan policies to young people and freshly graduated students to carry out their startups. Algerian people or the young people in Algeria, they already have an interesting mindset of entrepreneurial. And I think the government needs to help, but at least to facilitate the procedures and to facilitate the way for these small startups. So local investment could be motivated by easing taxes and financial procedures, such as lowering taxes, for example, or imposing reasonable ones at least. I believe the less rigid taxes are, the easier the local investment becomes, and thus the increase of employment and providing or realizing more job offers for unemployed people. On the other hand, I believe it is high time for Algerian government to end their sort of isolation and alienation from the investment of foreign markets. So Algeria is close to foreign investors. The reasons are not very much known, apart from, like, I don't know, the reasons are very hidden. But I think if you come to count multinational companies in the country, you could count them on both hands, and that's it. So to provide more jobs and opportunities for unemployed people, I believe that foreign investors should get better or easier procedures to come in Algeria. The country or the government or the economical ministry, they need to work on their plan in order to attract foreign investors and to invest their capital in the country. For that, I think
1 minute, Imen.
Yes, I'm almost done. So for that, I think that the country needs to invest more or attract the investors in two main sectors, which is non-renewable energy, because it's impossible to rely only on fossil fuel as energy. And for that, we help in reducing the pollution and so on and so forth. So non-renewable energy investors should be attracted to the country, and digital services as well. And for that, the government, I think, needs to put win-win policies for these investors to facilitate the way for a more diverse and sustained economy.
Thank you, Imen.
That's it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that's your time. You educated us a lot. I don't see any raised hands. Larry, it looked like you might have a comment. You're muted.
No, sorry, not at this point. Thanks.
Okay, Dr. Ali, go ahead.
Okay, I was listening, Imen, carefully, because as I know, Algeria is among 10 biggest producers of hydrocarbons, and it's a pity that Imen presented here the problem of unemployment. But I think that one of the biggest problems that Algeria is facing is corruption of political elite. In 2019, they started some protests on the streets of Algiers, but probably a political elite, Algerian political elite, was able to escape to these protests from the people, Algerian people. But my question has to do with how is the situation now and how the other actors, including civil society, are working to, let's say, get rid of this corrupt political elite in Algeria. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. Go ahead, Iman. Go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, corruption, I totally agree with him. Corruption is the main reason why Algeria is not moving forward at all. And you know, sir, it's a ripple effect. If there is a corrupted political system, obviously there will be a very underdeveloped economical system. They are interrelated. And I mean, the situation, the political situation in Algeria, if I start talking about it, we're gonna need another room and another webinar, but it's not going anywhere. Especially with the pandemic, the protests stopped. But Algerian people are very much determined in order to move forward and to eradicate the mafia system. So I think I wouldn't want today to tackle the political issue in Algeria, but rather the economical issue. But they are interrelated. If you work on one, definitely the other one will be better.
Thank you, Iman. And you want to say a final comment, Dr. Ali?
Yeah, well, I would like that Iman has more information regarding the actors. I mean civil society. Do the organization of civil society are active or not? Thanks.
Okay.
It is still active on social media, on petitions, on charity and non-governmental associations to advance more honest and non-corrupted policies. But to tell you that it is moving fast, or no, it's not. It's going to be a fight on a long term. I'm being totally realistic, but the civil society is not did not give up on the very first terms of the very first protest, which is called Hirak in Algeria. So they're still working on it. We're still working on it. We're not giving up.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
I will say that in terms of practical solutions, one of the projects that I undertook with some Algerian students was they created an education system about food waste and composting in 3 languages. This is a solution, right? And then they built compost bins. A community adopted them, and the community continued to make the composting bins, and they're cleaning up the waste that is contributing to the climate situation in Algeria. So there are things that citizens can do even if the government is not cooperating. And so I empower citizens to do what they can and remind citizens that we can solve problems even if our government is cooperative.
Yes, true. I totally agree with you. But the issue is deeper than that. The issue is not just that Algerian people should be responsible, or they can do good stuff without the help of the government. Here, one hand can't clap. I think both sides needs to cooperate in order to put Algeria in a safe place.
Okay, thank you. We have to move on now. We will come back to the conversation of Algeria again. I know that Dr. Akiki has a question. I'll ask you kindly, Dr. Akiki, to type your question. We are going to move on to Iraq, and Dr. Shuber Falah is going to talk about solutions for the corruption. Corruption seems to be the theme today in Iraq. Dr. Shuber Falah, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. How are you?
Okay, wonderful, nice. I'm looking for you. There you are. You have 8 minutes.
Yeah. How are you guys? I hope you are well. I am talking to you from my office here in Najaf, in Iraq. So I will talk about one thing, which is the corrupted system in Iraq. Is my voice okay?
You're fine. Yes, thank you, Shuber.
Yeah. So after 2003, as you know, after the Freedom War led by the United States, Iraq started the new era. So suddenly we have a democracy after maybe 30 years of dictatorship. Every detail in our organizations, our systems are being dictated or being done for a dictatorship, harsh punishment to do anything wrong. Suddenly we have democracy and people can do and work and say whatever they feel. Now, after 2003, there are a lot of corruption because no punishment, absence of law. So what I'm talking here is about potential solutions for this problem. I suggested two solutions. First, either go to the free market and start to expel and fire people who are not working well in the governmental sections, because as you know, there are about 5 million employees in Iraq. I'm talking about 40 million population. So 5 million is a huge number. This is besides the army, which is about maybe 3 million. So 8 million people being paid by the government. And all of them, all of us, our jobs are secured. So I do not feel any worries about my job if I do something wrong, because my job is secured and nobody can fire me. So this little detail in our law, which is being heard from from the dictatorship, led to very harsh consequences. Right now, you may see in this the news, we have fires every week in hospitals and no punishment. Or we have the Mosul and north of Iraq being defeated by the ISIS and no punishment. We have lot of corruptions, lot of no electricity. We have just 2 hours by 2 hours electricity a day. So no punishment. Everything is being just, the law is not well enforced because nobody could or can fire any employee. Yes.
Go ahead. Somebody mute them, please. Go ahead, Shuber. We need to mute these people. Kick them out, please. Remove them. Thank you. Go ahead, Shuber. Oh, you're muted now. I think everybody got muted, Shuber. Sometimes hosts can just do a blanket mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. What I'm saying, we need to impose the free market strategies, the real free market strategies. I mean, employees can be fired, so they feel something. So they cannot sleep when they have something wrong, or go back to a dictatorship that maybe somebody will kill them or execute them if they do something wrong. What I'm saying in my argument, if you have a democracy, you should have a free market strategy. No democracy without a free market. As David Harvey, I think, stated that in his book, and MPLA was emphasizing that. So what I'm saying, no democracy without a free market. I'm talking about free market in the human resources. The democracy and your job is secure. Nobody can fire you. That means a lot of corruptions, a lot of fire in our hospitals, nothing being done, nothing being fixed. Our streets, our roads are being broken. Everything is bad here. Everything is bad, and nobody being punished. So
You have
thank
1
you
minute
for
left.
listening. Yeah, thank you for listening. This is all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shubert. We have lots of comments and questions. I'm going to start with Dr. Waleed Al-Juwaid, who is in Iraq also. Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Waleed. Unmute yourself. Waleed, can you hear me?
Okay, hello everyone. Hello, dear doctor. Okay, so I agree with Dr. Falah with what I've just said. He said that actually Dr. Falah, however, I disagree with one thing, that he has left us with two options: either to be executed from work or to be executed from life, just like in Saddam Hussein's regime. Okay, so
yes.
There must be other options. So in order to build a good society, I think that there must be better standard of living, better quality of life. There must be better opportunities. So in 2 words or 3 words, the solution is very simple. So we need to build and develop a society. And in order to do that, we have to build a human being. We have to build a citizen. I think this is very important. So in order to do that, we need help, actually. So exchange of information and knowledge between countries. This is a good idea in order to reach the appropriate way of doing that. So we all live under one sky, and the world is one. And this pandemic happening right now is a good evidence that the world is one. Because right now we need each other. We need a solution, whether from Iraq, whether from America, whether from, in order to take care of this or to get rid of this disease. So we should cooperate with each other. And what is the result if we do that? Of course, we need here in Iraq, for example, we need good schools, we need good hospitals, good streets, we need good life for all. So to be fair, this is one solution, to be fair to everybody. So I see that, for example, in America, it is a good example. All people have.
Dr. Waleed, your time is up. Shubert, do you have a response for Dr. Waleed?
Yes, actually, I read this in David Harvey. If you know David Harvey, he's a socialist, a Marxist guy, lived in the United States, a very famous theorist. And Namdi Allah, Jessica knows Namdi Allah very well. They both stated this: democracy with free market, except the Chinese democracy, what they call peculiar model, dictatorship with socialism. Socialism comes with dictatorship as a package. It's just, I do not state that, but I think we have seen that in Soviet Union and North Korea and China. Now free market comes with the democracy. No democracy without free market, no free market without democracy. And some people add to this, they said modernization. Modernization also should come with democracy and free market. So what I'm saying, in Iraq, you cannot have a democracy without a free market. I mean free market for employment. You should have the right, as a manager, I should have the right to kick out bad employees. But in Iraq, you do not have. I am directing a small business. I cannot expel anybody. I cannot fire anybody. Now in the private market, you can't do that. So we have good companies, as the world do. So what I'm saying, you cannot.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
you've gone over time.
Can I say something?
We have many more people who have raised their hands, including the king. So I'm going to go first to King Paki Silva Jr. Go ahead, Your Majesty.
Thank
I've
you.
got a headache now.
I'd like Dr. Waleed to conclude his solution. I'm very interested to hear him finish that off. Dr. Waleed, finish that solution method that you were proposing. I want to hear it.
So may I proceed? Dear
Yes.
Doctor? Yes.
Yes.
I think that the solution is to exchange information between. So I want to give you an example from America. All people in America almost have the same economic status. Those who are rich, they have to pay. They have to donate to pay taxes. So they make a balance between people. There is even those who are very rich. They are not regarded as rich people because there is everything available to everybody in America. Good schools, good streets, everything is good and everything is available to everyone. There may be some mistake, but everything is good. And so I see that people are satisfied with that in America. So they agree to pay taxes. Okay, they don't refuse. They never refuse. I have seen a debate between two presidential nominees. They say one of them suggested that they prevent taxes, but people who are watching, they disagree with him. They say if we don't take taxes from people, if you don't take taxes from people, this means that we are not going to have good schools. We're not going to have good streets. So taxes is important. So they agree to pay taxes. So because they are going to provide.
Waleed, Dr. Waleed, let me stop you for a minute. For a moment, I don't like to interrupt because today I'm being more silent than speaking because I want to hear all the solution and stuff. Just to correct you, taxes, overtaxing people brings tyranny, brings problems. Properly taxing people and putting those taxes equally to, say, insurance or the economy, whatever, makes more sense. But controlled taxation based on what people are being paid, because one guy is rich, one guy is poor, there's no distinction in my mind because taxes are paid as they are earned. But taxes are fair across the board. And in the United States and any other country, that's where they fail. That's a fact. So let's move on, please. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So I would like to give Dr. Akiki a moment to respond. So Dr. Akiki.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to underline the issue that democracy is closely correlated with the middle class, neither with liberty nor with the law. It is with the middle class. If you saw the rise of democracy in modern Europe in the 18th century, it was correlated with the noblesse, with the bourgeoisie, not with the taxes or anything. In Iraq, we don't have the middle class that is able to operate a good democracy. And that is where you should pinpoint. That is the problem. You just replaced one Sunni noblesse with another Shi'i. I don't know if it is called, or it could be called noblesse, excuse me for that, but it cannot. And eventually that was the case. And eventually when we see cultural heterogeneity on the rise, democracy is directly on the low. So you cannot correlate democracy with a heterogeneous population. And that is the plague that is in Iraq. However, the solution for that, you can see a melting pot in the United States. What created that melting pot was the correlation between the middle class and democracy. That is what I wanted to say. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Akiki. Shuber, do you have a comment for him?
Yes, first of all, thank you, Dr. Akiki. I think this is a great addition, great comments for me. I missed this point. I really appreciate this. And however, still have my argument, still defending my argument. No democracy without free market. However, the point that he added is great. I take it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. We do have one moment for Dr. Ali has a solution for corruption. So go ahead, Dr. Ali.
No, thanks.
1 minute.
I wanted this. I will send you by email, but I wanted to ask Dr. Falah if it's possible. Just only a quick question in continuation of what Dr. Akiki was saying.
Go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Falah,
yes.
You in the last week you mentioned that you are more than 4,000 people returned from EU, UK or US that you already hold a PhD. Do you have, do you have among yourself, do you have a kind of association which is just sharing information and just you know, talking to each other for daily problems? And here you will start. You are the cradle for starting the middle class. What was Dr. Akiki was mentioning? Thanks.
Response, Shuber?
Thank you very much. Yes, we do. We have some Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups. However, people, because of the system, I mean the corrupted system, nobody could punish anybody. Nobody can fire anybody. So people, after 2 years, after 1 year of coming back from the United States, we just feel slow. We do not interested anymore in fixing anything. So our esteem is being reduced, just lazy, because same salary for me, I'm working hard, and same salary for people who are just sleeping in their homes. I mean, this is the problem here. My father has an expression. He says, a barking dog has one bread, and a sleeping dog has same bread. So he's saying, what he's stating, that no difference if you work or not. Same thing, same salary. So what I'm saying, we should reward people who work, people who are active, and at the same time we should punish people who are not working. Nobody can do that because there's a democracy and people can protest, and we have an old system protecting employees. Even the Minister of the Education cannot expel anybody. So it's just chaos, just chaos. So for this reason, people felt low esteem, and nobody cooperate with each other anymore. We have rooms, we have Facebook, but nobody cooperate. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. We're going to move on now to Eddie Disweme, who is going to talk about a solution for the Congo. Eddie, are you ready to speak to us? Looks like you are ready. You have 8 minutes, Eddie. Thank you for being here today.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. I won't take too long of your time. I know it's late in the other parts of the world, but talking about Africa, the solutions most of the time are the same. When you talk about the economy, you talk about a dualism that's been mentioned in the past between agriculture and the industry. The way we look at economic development in the Western world, where we all live, most of the time has to do with growth in capital income or just economic output. In Africa, it's different. People may have income in their pocket, but they may not have access to goods and services, as we know. And they may also have limited access to certain freedom and liberties that are necessary for the free market to thrive. So what I've been dealing with and what I've been talking to people about, mostly people that are in parliamentary government in Africa, is to change the way we see economic development and the way we see government. The reason why corruption is so high in Africa, it's because of human interaction. A person who gets in power would give access to friends and families first before anybody else. And because it's ingrained in cultural and so in culture and society, it's very hard to get rid of because everybody does the same thing. So my plan is to push away from that by creating almost a virtual type of government. I'll give you an example. If you have to elect, as it's going through in the Congo now, they are looking for elections to go through for the electoral board. And there is a fight that has been ongoing for 6 months just to choose a person, because everybody has a feeling about who has to be that person, since they like one person for one reason or another. If you have, if you devise a virtual type of government in Africa, what you do is you govern by committee. For example, the people that decide on elections or on job access have to be part of a committee that decides virtually, based on credentials, of course, who leads them. The reason why it's been heard before, it's because that's how Africa used to be governed a long time ago before colonialism. Africa was governed by committees. All these villages, all these traditional places were governed by a committee of people that decided what was best for the environment, what was best for the nation or the society. Today, with the modern world, we depend more on strong leadership, on strong leaders that get to decide whatever is good for the nation. And because of the ingrained corruption in the countries where people live in Africa, it's very hard to move ahead because the block is corruption. The block is what you call favors in most societies. So my solution is to look at to go back to marry traditional way of governing and modern way of governing. That's the #1 step to move ahead in Africa. If we do that in every single sector of society, you would see that even finding a job would give more access to people that don't have access now. We have 80% of people in the Congo, for example, who graduated from college that have no job. So they finish school as chemists, as engineers, and they work in agriculture because they have no access to the labor market. And as we know in the US, economy depends on the labor market, not only the quantity and quality of it, but also access to it. And in Africa, there is no access to opportunity. So people cannot innovate. Last time we discussed when somebody said we were complaining about what's happening in Africa, but that we have no solution. We cannot give solutions if the people that are supposed to innovate and create have no access to even create or innovate. They have no access to even cross the front door, to be able to use their talents to move the country ahead. So that's why any plan in Africa that's going to be successful have to be concerned about access first, about a way for people to gain interest into high level of society to achieve what has to be achieved. And the only way to do it is to go back before colonialism and see how Africa used to be governed. Not in every aspect, because of course we live in a modern world now, but in governance. Then once you give access to people, when you give access to a number of talent, there is a lot of people that have gone to school in the US, in Europe, then they can go back and have access to that free market that we're talking about earlier. So it's all about access, and we're pushing for it today as we speak, talking to governments in Central Africa to open access. But it's the hardest thing to do because the ones who are in power now know the only way for them to make as much money as possible is to give access to the friends and family, to collect as much so that when they leave power, they have enough to live on. Yeah, that's number one. So increase access and give people a chance to contribute to their countries. And once that access is given, economic development in Africa, we have to change our viewpoint of it. We have to change the way we look at it. I said earlier, in the US, when people income goes higher, of course, the economic indicators would go higher because all that money goes into savings, goes into shopping, goes into the market. In Africa, when income goes higher, that money sometimes stays under the mattresses because people don't trust the banks. So there is basically no saving, and people don't trust open society. So they keep the money under the bed. So even increasing the income does not increase development economically.
1 minute.
Also, when you have access to, I'm sorry, I lost one second there, but what I'm saying is this, once you give people access to goods and services, then of course, they will be able to push the country ahead. So we have to give them access because sometimes they have the money, they have no access to goods and services. Okay. On our part, what we can do is increase think tank participation in Africa. Right now, we don't have a lot. So as members of SDGs, around the world, we have to push think tank. We can push that with very, very low income. We just organize leaders around the world to sit together and think about the future in smaller groups before they become bigger groups. And that's all I had for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. I know that we have some questions. King Paki Silva Jr., do you have a comment?
Actually, I agree with him 100%. He must have read my game plan book because what he is talking about, I have been studying, I have a PhD in political science. And part of that is, as a scientist, is analyzing governments. And what you said is absolutely true. Having accessibility to the workforce through industries that offer employment, spending the money rather than putting it under the mattress is absolutely correct. So again, he must have somehow got into my vault and read my book, but it's a good thing. Because
I'm happy.
So I would like to, I'm staying quiet purposely because I want to hear everybody. It's your time for me to hear, and I want to hear exactly what is being said so that I can comment effectively. And I've asked everybody to write to me, go through Jessica there, the problem and the solution, and then we work on we'll put it together. But thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Your Majesty. I know that Imen Humer has a question. Go ahead, Imen.
It is not really a question, but just a comment on what Eddie has said. I actually agree with everything he has said. I relate to it as Algerian citizens. And I wanted to say something about trust between the government and the people. And yes, it's one of the main things that I think government should work on is to rebuild. I mean, governments in Africa or in developing countries rebuild the trust between the people and the governments. Like here in Algeria, I think just like in Congo, like he was saying, trust is completely non-existent between in the governments, and the main reason to that is corruption. Just like I said, everything is interrelated. By enhancing trust between the government and the people would facilitate a lot of things. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Okay, thank you.
I want to make just one last comment here. Adrian and Larry, and Jessica, they talk a lot about leadership. And one of the things that comes up in my mind is when you're talking about corruption and government. We all know that government, for the most part, appears or are corrupt. The issue, we know. The solution isn't always going to be simple, but I want folks to think about this statement, if you've heard it before, is that the people need to take control of their lives, of their economy, how they live. The control needs to be from the people, from themselves, and then move forward. The people need to understand that governance, their sovereignty is themselves. It's a sad thing when the people are afraid of the government. The government should always be afraid of the people. And what I'm hearing today, as I've heard last week, of this corruption that we can go on, and we already know the corruption is there. And today is finding a solution, putting our think tank together. And I am looking forward to furthering this. I'm looking forward to the write-up. And also when you do write it up, I suggest you put your Skype information, because I like to talk to you personally. The persons that have these problems, I want to look in your eye, you look at mine, and we can talk openly, because that way we can understand the problem more effectively. Thank you.
You're welcome. We do have time for one more comment, and then after Daphne Phillips' question, we're going to move on to Dr. Raymond Akiki. So Daphne, you have a question?
Yes, please. I believe I was talking to Dr. Alda. I believe my question is towards him. We constantly talk about the word corruption. For me, coming from Haiti, I noticed that somebody just started talking about the people or the government, right? So for you to change corruption, you got to get at the heart of the people. The last time I was in the meeting with Your Highness, I think Larry and his partner were talking about educating the people and teaching them leadership start from home and start from education. So part of the solution to fix corruption should start through education. What are we educating the young people about? What is leadership starting at a young age and as you grow? And I did take that last talk into heart and started look at Haiti and see what's going on in the country of Haiti. And the number one problem for me coming from there is the government purpose is just to take from the people, to take the resources from the country. It's not about the country at all. It's not about the citizen. Even when the people cry for a new leader, if they elect themselves as the leader, they themselves take from the citizens, because there's no real understanding about what politics is and the purpose of government. And I think a lot of the time in those developing countries, there's a lack of education, understanding the role of politics within the confine of the culture. So I think for me, a solution, we start there. We need to educate the people about what leadership is from a personal perspective. How do you use that to impact the community around you? And then you go globally to the state level. Is what do we do with the people, the citizens themselves, when their heart is corrupt? You get in government leaders from a corrupt citizens. So I want to know, wanted to hear further. I thought Larry was going to talk, because the last time I heard Larry and Audrey, and I didn't get a lot of time to ask him a lot of questions. I just wanted to figure out where they were in the process of getting at the core of your culture.
Dr. Ali, this is to you, I think.
Well, I sent in WhatsApp to Dr. Ash, and I said that I have a proposal for solution. I am just telling my idea shortly here, but I will send a written solution, a written paper on that. What I am thinking is that it's very important to push for more integration about countries and regions. I was talking about corruption, and immediately I saw the reaction of almost all of you, that you agree that one of the biggest problems here in all our countries is the corruption. Somebody was mentioning, is any correlation about corruption and natural resources? Yes, it is. I have been fortunately to work with EITI, which is Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, which Albania is a member of it. And there are very few countries that they are member of this organization. If your country, for example, the case of Algeria or the case of Congo or other countries, can be part of this organization, I am assuring you that the corruption is minimized, because each country which is member of this organization has to present a report every year on how much has produced of oil, of chromides, or other kind of natural resources, and those money, where those money has gone. And this is very important. And this report is not only made by government, but it's made by business, by civil society, and also by the government. So there are three actors in place. I would like to sit myself and write a good thing, and I will send to Dr. Ash, and probably I'm sure she will distribute this to you all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aliai. The important message here is that while the Balkans isn't perfect, they have achieved some measure of peace, and they are reducing corruption. So there is a huge lesson from the Balkans for all of these other communities. Walid, I'll give you 1 minute, and then we're going to move on to Dr. Akiki. Go ahead, Walid. One minute.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I think that just like what everyone has said, just corruption is very important, and I think that the responsibility is not only to be laid on the government, because everyone in a society has his own role. For example, members in a society, they should have a responsibility. Politicians, they should have a responsibility. Even religious men and everyone in a society should have his own responsibility in order to do something towards such negative thing. Okay, so I think that it is the responsibility of everyone in a society. So the keyword to this negative thing is, as Dr. Daphne has just said, education. To build a human being, I think this is the solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Walid. Hang on 1 second. Dr. Akiki, are you ready to speak? And then we have Larry and Adrian do want to talk about a process that they have. But go ahead, Dr. Akiki first.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ash. Well, I was listening to Dr. Walid, the last statement he said, and I was thinking, should we educate or uneducate? In the case of Iraq, and since he involved the religious leaders or something like that, please, Dr. Walid, think of it. Should we educate or uneducate? Because sometimes uneducation is better than education the traditional way. And I want just to highlight something. I mean, in the Balkan, corruption is not on the law. It is with the tie. Excuse me, but I have a problem of electricity. I might be off. So
yeah, we can still see you though, and we can still hear you.
Yeah, I'm on the
Do you
UPS
live
right
in
now,
Iraq?
so
Do you live in Iraq, dear Doctor?
He's in Lebanon.
I am in Lebanon currently. So we have the same problems that you have, worse than the Iraqis. So the issue is, especially in the Arab world, is to uneducate rather than educate. So think about this when you speak about modern political thoughts and modern leadership rather than the traditional one. As for the thing that I heard about the Congo also, I mean, I was just listening about this glass ceiling, although it was not said.
Whoops. It seems that we've lost him again. We will come back to Dr. Akiki if he is able to rejoin us. Dr. Akiki, by the way, is our last speaker for today. Adrian and Larry, I'll move to you. Unmute yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I'm there. Okay, so I think what I've heard today is we have an issue with corruption. It's about leadership, and everybody talks about building a strong human being, but I haven't heard any any solution about how to build a strong human being and how to build a society and how to build a community, or the realm, as we like to call it, over time. Corruption today in the places that they exist are not going to go away unless we build the character of individuals and the foundation of individuals to change that in the future. Or you give those people who are corrupt another opportunity to do something that is for the greater good that you can convince them to do. But when you get down to it, in my opinion, it goes back to building individuals through a foundational process, not only their mindsets, but according to their foundational, their beliefs, their ideals, the environments that they're in, the experiences they're having, the core they have, the creed they have, how they live, all the objectives they want to achieve is part of that foundation that you need to build for your communities and for individuals that align with that of the communities. So all the great stuff we talk about here is all secondary, because if that's not done, all the things you talk about, the lack of access because people want their power and they don't want to give it up, isn't going to change. And more importantly, if we don't do this across the young kids, across the young adults, and across the existing adult base, this is never going to change. So on that, I'm going to turn it over to Adrian to talk to you about that existing program.
Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, thanks, Larry. Yes, so the whole issue is addressing the problem from the early childhood. And our friend from Iraq mentioned it correctly. It's re-educating, not the consisting and existing situation of education, but moving it into a new level where all the levels of education are aligned, as Larry has mentioned, the adult, the young teenager to adult, and the very early age group. We have formed a program that's called Generational Enterprise Leadership, which incorporates knowledge from the early age of 9, going straight into the young adults, which are 17 to 25. And all of this is aligned with their adult parents who are the leaders. So this is the program that was mentioned by our good friend from Haiti that we are initializing into a specific realm of people. And this is the future, getting leadership in the right direction from an early age. So it's a reprogramming of the entire system to a new system that from an early age, a child can be knowledgeable on what the societal problems are, and to continue this education in his early teenage years, guided strongly by the values of his parents, which of course will also be aligned with non-corruption and positivity of growth of that country. So the program is called GEL, and you can message Jessica on having some access to that full program that we've laid out in detail.
Okay.
Jess, can I make one final comment? Okay,
Yes, you have
so
1
I
minute.
want everyone, I want everyone to do this for me. I want you to get a piece of paper out. And this is a question about how well you know yourself. I want you to tell me or write it down on paper 10 characteristics that best describe you in under 1 minute. Okay? 10 characteristics that best describe you in under 1 minute. Go.
Okay.
Thirty seconds.
Could you repeat what you said? I
Okay, no
didn't
problem.
hear what you said.
Your 10 characteristics that best describe you in under 1 minute. Ten seconds left. And time's up. So here's the question. That's how well you think you know yourself. How many of you got 10? How many got less than 10? Exactly. So now you think you know yourself, but you really don't, because I asked you a really simple question. And if that is what you mean by building the human being, everybody needs to do it at every point in time in their life. So think of how well you think you know yourself, but you really don't. So when those, catastrophic situations or those disruptions hit, how well are you anchored in your own being to be able to deal with those and deal with others? So if you're not able to lead yourself, how do you lead others? If you're not able to identify who you are and what makes you you, how do you expect other people to understand you? On that note, I'm done.
Thank you,
That's
Larry.
what needs to be done in schools today. What needs to be done in societies today? Let's create those identity for our children who can be strong in themselves and therefore build the communities and the countries they need to build, to be at the forefront of building the human race, not just their wealth, because
Right.
their wealth doesn't mean anything in another 50 years, potentially.
Yeah, thank you, Larry.
Okay.
Okay, I know
That's
the doctor.
exactly what our program,
Hang on, sorry.
that's exactly where our program, sorry.
Go ahead, Adrian, finish.
Yeah, that's exactly where our program starts. The young child understands what he is, he understands where his future is going, he understands everything. So it's not building the human capacity in a specific way. What it is developing each individual with a foundation that can deal with every situational leadership situation from an early age. Exactly what Larry has said
Okay, thank you, Larry. I will eventually get to Dr. Daphne Phillips' question, but Dr. Akiki was cut off and he's back now. And I think he has been inspired or something by Larry and Adrian's words. So go ahead, Dr. Akiki.
Well, I was thinking about something bizarre, to tell you the truth. Just to tell Larry, rooted things do not fly. That's the problem. And eventually, when you wanted to have a set of characteristics, I mean, you know yourself differently than the others depict your characteristics. And eventually, it's about resilience and it's about positivism. It's about mindfulness. And I have a student who is working on the impact of self-compassion with 50th graders on resilience when they graduate. And that is something pretty much close than the one that you were saying. Just that, because anchoring people has one negative effect, which is they cannot fly once they are anchored. I just wanted to say this about as a reflection theme, rather than
Okay.
to speak about or ask a question or something. Now, what I was saying about the Balkans have rampant corruption that is, how to say, I mean, more sly than the corruption that you see in Africa or in the Arab world. Why? Because you see corruption with a tie. I mean, it's a neat person who can rob your dreams rather than your resources. And eventually you go and you elect a person with a plan, and he doesn't do anything about his plan, and he has his media next to him to explain to you why you thought negatively or you misunderstood his plan, and eventually rewriting history. And right now they are rewriting history there. I mean, sometimes they dispute an issue in the Balkan, which is like are you Macedonians or are the Greek Macedonians? And eventually they are ready to rewrite history in this particular case. So you see, or language and infrastructure, as was said this year with Bulgaria. And eventually you see that the country is ready to put in doubt and in question its very essence. And that cannot be done in France or in the United States. If you question something like that, I think that you go to a war. So there is no revisionist like that. So what is particular in this in this instance is that those countries are still on the first stages of evolution. There is no maturity, and that is their plague. And here education is a help. But you see that all of their youth is and their brains are being drained outside. And this is a market. And to tell you something, even if I know that there is a Congo in Congo, there is a brain there, I am ready to purchase it. And Jesse knows that I am ready to do that. And eventually, yes, this is capitalism. And the answer to capitalism is capitalism again. What I was discussing when I spoke a bit about the middle class, which is the solution of democracy. It's the only solution. Why? Because you need your full potential to be able to decide in full liberty. You cannot decide with full liberty if you are tied up to a person with your work, with your safety, as Dr. Falah was insinuating a little bit, or even with your progress and with your future, or with your children's prospects and future. And that is the essence. The essence of liberty is self-sustainability, and that is the core of the SDGs. However, the SDGs are done by developed countries. And for the developed countries, it is easier to access or to teach or to understand the SDGs rather than the growing countries or the countries of the third world. And there we have Maslow's hierarchy again. And you cannot expect a person who is hungry to speak about superintendent goals, such as sustainable development, or such as the environment or the seas or the life in I don't know where. He just thinks about subsistence, about tomorrow, about his basic needs, and then you have to move. I think that Maslow illustrated this perfectly well. I don't need to reiterate on Maslow. However, you cannot expect access to the first world countries while deciding to develop yours. You need to keep those young people, those minds, or whatever you call them, the brains, You have to keep them on the inside. They are the essential seed for progress or something like that. SDGs without progress is a white elephant project. I mean, it's a sham. We need to service our basic needs, I mean, first. And there is another thing that the first world countries or the developed world has to consider. Because let me give you an example. If we are operating a mine in Africa or an oil field in the Middle East, and we don't care about the environment, you know who's gonna pay for that? The developed world. And eventually, sometimes you see mines that are not paying enough taxes, and you see that the country or the let me say the governance of the country cannot, with the taxes that are taken from that mine, to solve the environmental impact. And this is an economic condition. And that is why we cannot speak about philosophy or political science or leadership without mentioning the economy. The economic factor is very important in this perspective.
Thank you, Dr. Akiki. You have 30 seconds.
And eventually what I want to invite you to think of is how to correlate economy. And what I'm saying is the white economy rather than the dark or the negative economy with the SDGs. And that is all. Okay,
thank you, Dr. Akiki. Your words have sparked a little bit of the good kind of fervor. I'm first going to go back to Adrian and Larry to have a short rebuttal on the concept of being having roots or wings. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yes. First of all, let me just clear up some issues. Our program deals with an entire family cycle, from early childhood to adult, and includes all the mothers of the family. This is not only a gender for the males. This is strongly added and foundationed in the family unit. Secondly, the other part of the equation that my colleague was just speaking on, we also have a solution that is called the circular economy, which turns waste to energy, energy to food, food to the community. So we are dealing with the issues of sustainability in totality by taking the simplest item in your society that causes the problem, which is garbage, and turning that into a reusable energy source that can be converted with the smoke to a growing economic agricultural sector, which brings a total sustainability and non-dependency of importation of items which are necessary for life. So that's my end, and Larry will continue.
Yeah, so it's really interesting you say, if you have roots, you can't fly. But I'm going to remind you that, every leaf on the tree falls at some point in time. So if you don't have a solid foundation, the ability to grow and thrive, to understand where you're coming from and where you want to go is probably the utmost important thing to do. It's like saying to someone, I want to go to Nairobi, Kenya, and they ask you, where are you today? And you say, I don't know. So you tell me if the foundation is supposed to be something to hold you back or to move you forward.
Thank you, Larry. I think it's a bit of we're just mixing metaphors here. So let's move on. Oh.
Not everything that flies is a leaf.
Not everything that's in the ground is stable.
Thank you, gentlemen. Waleed, do you have a question?
Actually, it is not a question. It is just to add something to what Dr. Larry has just said about 10 minutes or 15 minutes ago. He said that what are the characteristics that you have? Okay, so I want to say that in order to build a human being, I think that we need to take into considerations that children are what we build, children are what we teach, children are what they learn, children are what they see, children are what they hear. So we have to take into consideration this, and in addition to this, in order to make sure that we achieve these important things, I think that we need planning. Planning is very important, to plan what we are going to do in order to make to make a good human being. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Waleed. And we have actually, sir, do you have something to say? I don't see your name. Muting him. So we've actually covered all the ground that we wanted to cover today. I think that His Majesty King Silva Jr. has heard everything that we had wanted to get said today. So, and I don't see any hands raised for the first time. Woohoo! I think we made it through to the point where we're going to have the King give us some words of wisdom that will hopefully carry us through to the next session. Go ahead, Your Majesty.
Thank you. I don't know about words of wisdom, but in listening to each of you speak today, it enlivened my heart in that much of what we said is from your heart. Therefore, it's not rhetoric. It's when you speak your truth, it's always the best. And when you're reaching out for solutions, that's who we are as a team. Not one solution will come from me. I'm not the all-knowing. We have God for that. But I know enough to bring everybody together that can give us good, sound advice that I know in my life, that I respect highly. And once I received through Jessica the problem and your proposed solution, I promise to analyze it. I will have my team of generals and economists and wonderful people whom I respect and hold in high esteem. And I try to surround myself with good people. And these are the people that I will bring to the table when I receive your information. And then I will respond in writing so that you can have it, and then we'll debate it. Between yourself and myself, we'll debate it. And later we can bring it to the class if you want to, as to how we come with the solution to solve the problems. We know corruption is out there. How to solve the corruption is a simple matter. However, it may not be so simple for each of you. But for me, once the problem's all been identified, then we'll send very strong support letters to the government involved, solutions to solve that problem, and recommendations that the kingdom will require, will reach out and give to them. So with that note, thank you all for listening to what I had to say last week. You folks came back together. I'm proud of all of you. And I look forward to your written documents. I'll solve myself a can of worms here because I'm going to be busy all week looking through all your stuff. And I won't have nothing to do. I mean, this is, well, you know, my mother used to always say that when you make an offer, be prepared to live with it. And I look forward to it. But thank you again, and I will see all of you guys next week. I hope to get your information in a day or two. I want you folks to be very, very thoughtful when you write the problem. Very, very thoughtful. And when you propose a solution, I want to come from the deepest depth of your heart, your thoughts. And most importantly, I want you to take the emotions out. Emotions are never logical. I want you to take the emotions out, and I want you to think as you are a leader, making a decision. Take the emotions out and just put your thoughts in a good, cohesive way. And don't forget, I want your Skype information, because you'll be getting a call, and I'm going to be smiling, saying aloha, and then we're going to be debating. We're going to be talking one-on-one. All right? Aloha to everyone. God bless.
Thank you, Your Majesty. My partner, Mr. Amar Jaffrey, did have his hand raised for quite some time, and he put it down. So go ahead, Mr. Jaffrey. Thank you, Your Majesty.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Queen. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, everyone. It was really a mind-boggling discussion. I think it is the next stage. I think now we are talking about like human beings. And my takeaway from today's discussion is that we should prepare our future leaders of the world. We should prepare to face the challenges of the future, not of today. To my understanding, I think whatever we are teaching them in universities, now we should teach them in colleges. And what they need to do in their real life, we must tell them in universities, so that when they're out of their universities, they're ready to be the leader. Today, I don't know about your country, but in Pakistan, we expect our university graduates that when they come out of the university, they will learn from the industry, they will learn from the people. I think it's a wrong approach. I think today my takeaway is that we should prepare the future leaders of the world. And I think the best way is to get them connected together. The students of university in Pakistan must talk to students of the university in Turkey, in Malaysia, in different countries, and vice versa. I think now we should set them free to understand the real challenges of the world, which are totally different what we faced. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you.
One comment. I agree about the young generation learning, but in this particular forum, it's important that we identify the problem, have the solution so we can work towards the problem, and as we work together as a team, then we leave a good legacy behind for the next generation that will leave behind to continue the good work going forward. So that's my intent. That is my purpose. That's what I am leading us to do, is to bring it all together so that the generation coming behind us can say, wow, we can continue to move on because we set the foundation. Without proper foundation, you have nothing, period. You have chaos, tyranny, crises, and problems. We don't want to leave the same problems of chaos that we humans created for our young generation to take care of. It starts with us right now, and we move it forward. So again, I look forward to your written statements. Let's move forward. And I agree, educating as we move forward, we take good notes. We leave it behind so and our youth, they can follow our example. Let's lead with example. Let's lead with respect and honor, with peace and love. Let's lead that way and get rid of the old paradigm of might is best. If I have a bully, I'm going to create another bully to beat that bully. Well, you got two raging bullies coming together, and the only good thing about eating with bulls is that they're good to eat. If you got two bulls coming out, two elks or two animals come together, that's not what our intentions are here today. We want to create a sound movement. Let's start here. And I promise you, only one thing is that as we move together cohesively, this is our think tank. This is our House of Nobles, all of them here. The world would see our work because we will live it, because we're doing it and move forward. Education, enforcement, setting up the ideology of a proper court system, enforcing the rules of law in a good way, take away the laws that makes no sense, and empowering people. Talking about taxations and everything else, a lot of stuff we need to talk about, and we will. Again, thank you for your comment.
I think that the King's words are a great closing for today. I'm thankful for Mr. Almar Jaffrey's presence, my partner in Pakistan. Thank you to my support staff, Adrian Duan and Larry Lowell. I'm so happy that so many wonderful people joined us today. And Dr. Ali, thank you for your important feedback. Dr. Akiki, I can thank everybody in this room. But I'm going to end and let the King's words stay fresh in your mind. So that's all for today. Hope to see you. If you want to join us next week, just let us know. Bye-bye.
Well, see everybody next week. Aloha.
Bye-bye.
Aloha.
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 Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Ash. Thank you, everybody. Dr. Wally, nice to see you again.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thank you very much for seeing you again.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.